You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Hello everyone, how y'all doing? It is your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, representing Mocha's Ladies Lounge, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. First off, let me definitely start off by saying I thank each and every one of y'all so much. The last content sermon that I did, how the sins of an unfaithful father fall upon his son. Yo, when I say y'all showed up and showed out, that video alone had over 2,000 views, okay? And I just uploaded it like last week. So when I say, listen, I know this word is so needed because it's resonating with a lot of people. And it's definitely drawing those who are spiritually woke and not spiritually broke to the content. So on that note, I definitely want to thank y'all. I'm glad that I'm spreading spiritual awareness because it is definitely needed amongst us as women, because there's too many women that are spiritually blind, that are making decisions that are impacting their well-being and them from being able to have a closer relationship with God. So I definitely want to thank each and every one of y'all for sharing the video, recommending the video. It didn't get that many views just based off of my good looks. It actually, begin to basically, accelerate due to the fact that so many of y'all are sharing, liking, subscribing, keeping the videos, keeping my sermons in the algorithm. So I got to give props to where it's due, and I definitely owe all of my subscribers, my members, and my viewers for all the viewing and all of the positive energy towards the sermon. So I definitely appreciate that, because it's letting me know that the word is necessary and that is actually reaching those who it needs to reach. Everybody's not a fan of these type of sermons, especially the side chicks, the Hagars, the harlots. They're not too fond of this type of message because, again, it steps on a lot of toes. But like I say, the truth is like medicine. It might taste nasty, but it's definitely good for you, okay? So big ups to everybody who's been putting the sermons out there. Also, if you are not a subscriber, why not join the family? You don't have to just pop in like, Jehovah's Witness once in a while. You are allowed to congregate and become a regular visitor. So subscribe. That way when I put out that new sermons, you won't miss out. Those of you who haven't been getting the notifications, it happens. YouTube just, it doesn't always notify you. So sometimes you have to unsubscribe and resubscribe right away, and make sure your bell is on all and not personalized, or else you will miss out on the sermons if you're not refreshing your notification bell. Just every once in a while you just have to do that. Unfortunately, YouTube just doesn't always notify all subscribers of everything. But let me get right into the topic. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Y'all already know I'm going to deliver. You already know the sermon is going to do what it do. And I already assured y'all, because somebody, I'm not sure who it is, but because I read so many comments, but somebody was like, you need to do a part 2 on this. And, of course, I'm going to deliver. So I'm going to do my part 2 on how the sins of the unfaithful father fall upon his son. But in this aspect, I wanted to specifically speak on the father, the married man who has created this hiatus. We have a lot of Martells out there. And also, I want to thank a lot of you who have been transparent in the comment section, sharing your truth, sharing your own experiences. So I'm going to read a couple of y'all comments, because I want people to know this is not just something that happens in the reality TV world. This is not something that we just hear about on off of Love and Flip Flop and Love and Lock Up in Huntsville. This is something that's real. It happens every day to people you know, people you don't know. And it's a very sensitive subject because it does pertain to children that are being conceived through adultery, doing somebody's lustful actions, people that are irresponsible, selfish, not respecting vows, not respecting the marital union, not respecting their integrity, and children are paying the price because of these individuals. And it's just real, and it does impact them. It does affect them. So let's get rid of this Walt Disney perception of children are innocent and they shouldn't be treated different, and people shouldn't look down upon them. Unfortunately, this is that dark cloud that both individuals produce for their children. Okay, so even though the children are innocent, unfortunately the act that brought them here is not innocent, and therefore the parents, the karma, they're going to endure the karma, and so is the child that they created. It's no different than Hagar and Sarah. For those of y'all who are very familiar with the story, if you recall, Sarah had a very hard time being able to conceive, having children. She was not able to bear a child, okay? And like any other woman who's not able to conceive or bear children, it does make you feel less of a woman, unless God has given you peace, and he's giving you assurance of the situation, in which some of us have not been assigned to have children naturally, but you can become somebody's adoptive mother. There's children out there that are needy, who don't have a home. So it's more than one way to become a mother other than just naturally giving birth, because I know, like some of you ladies out here know, we know women who have naturally birthed their children, but that does not make them mothers. Okay, so mothers is being a mother is not just an assignment. It's actually a gift. And you don't have to naturally give birth to a child in order to fulfill that. Because everybody who has children are not mothers, okay? And this we know, right? But Sarah felt insignificant because she was not able to give her husband Abraham a child. So during the duration of their marriage, they had a maid, which was basically considered as a slave woman, because the slave woman was basically someone who catered to the family, was like a maid, housework, cooking, cleaning, whatever. So instead of Sarah trusting in God, Sarah and Abraham trusting in God to bless them with a child in his own timing for them, Sarah took matters into her own hands and asked Abraham if he would sleep with the slave woman Hagar, so that Hagar could conceive a child for them. Now, we all know this was not a wise decision on Sarah's behalf, for her to be so desperate and so thirsty to want to have a child that she gave Abraham permission, okay, to actually have sex with this Egyptian slave woman by the name of Hagar. And that is what ended up happening, right? So again, Sarah took matters in her own hands. She got impatient and basically felt like Lord was preventing her from bearing children. So she gave her husband access and permission, which I would have not done. But it's easy to say what you would and won't do when desperation sets in and we feel like God isn't moving quick enough or swift enough, we tend to take matters in our own hands, and what ends up happening is we make more of a catastrophe. So Abraham listened to the voice of Sarah. So that is when Abraham took it upon himself to actually become intimate with the slave girl Hagar. And he went to her, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. So what ended up happening was, and this is why it's imperative that we don't take matters into our own hands. Once Hagar knew she was carrying Abraham's seed, she started smelling herself. Okay? And she began to get the spirit of arrogance, like 99 boo boo, I'm able to have something that you couldn't get, which is your husband's child. And Hagar started mistreating Sarah. Okay? Sarah, against her better judgment, got upset with the way Hagar was acting towards her, right? So Sarah got upset and took her frustration out on Abraham. Now keep in mind, she gave Abraham permission to sleep with this woman, but she didn't know the woman was going to start smelling herself and acting up. And she gets into an argument with Abraham and says, I gave my slave girl to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked down on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me. But Abraham said to Sarah, your slave girl is in your power. Do with her as you please. Okay, then Sarah dealt harshly with her. And that's when Hagar began to run away and leave from Sarah, right? So basically, like most men, he didn't have a problem with sleeping with Hagar, because that part to him was definitely going to benefit him as far as the pleasure within itself. However, when the heat turned up and Sarah got upset, he decides all of a sudden, I don't want nothing to do with this. Hey, you brought Hagar in here, so you do what you please. I don't want no parts of it. Which he should have said from the beginning. No, I don't think I need to sleep with our slave woman, because as soon as she gets pregnant, you may be desperate now, but it may make you feel some type of way. You may start feeling like you made a bad decision. So it's funny how Abraham did not want to be proactive and stop and put his input in the situation before it even started, but he waited till after damage was done. And men have a big tendency to do this. They only want to deal with issues when the heat turns up versus being proactive and stopping it from happening in the first place. So anyway, the angel of the Lord found her by sprung in the wilderness, meaning Hagar, and said to Hagar, slave girl, why are you here and you're not with your mistress Sarah? So the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her. The angel of the Lord also said, I will greatly multiply your offspring, and that they cannot be counted for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, now that you have conceived and shall bear a son, you shall call him Ishmael. So basically, the Lord was telling her, look, you need to humble yourself. All of this crying, you being upset, you need to humble yourself and go back to your mistress. Okay? And I'll still somehow, even through all of this chaos, I will still bless you. I will multiply your offsprings. But you gonna have to stop feeling for yourself, feeling sorry for yourself, and you're gonna have to go back. Okay? And basically, humble yourself with Sarah. So she named the Lord who spoke to her, you are El Roy. Sorry, y'all, I can't read this morning. El Roy, God of seeing, God of vision, basically. Have I really seen God and remained alive after seeing him? Therefore, the well was called 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼. Okay? Anyway, getting to the point, Hagar bore Abraham a son. And Abraham named the son whom he had with Hagar, Ishmael. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said, I am mighty God, walk before me and be blameless, and I will make my covenant between me and you will make this exceedingly numerous. Then Abraham fell on his face and said, God, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You shall be the ancestor of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, which we know her as Sarah, we're going to call her Sarah instead of Sarai. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. Okay, so the Lord dealt with Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son whom she bore for him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Now Sarah said, God has brought laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me. So, as you can see, as ugly as this whole situation was, God still had mercy and blessed Abraham and Sarah with their own son. Okay, you have to realize Sarah had to deal with a lot of embarrassment. I'm sure everyone in the village knew what transpired between Hagar, Sarah, and Abraham. So that is why she was like, now God has brought me laughter. Everyone who hears will laugh with me now. Everybody used to laugh at her. Now y'all get to laugh with me because y'all get to see that God is blessing me with my very own son. So, of course, Isaac was born, but just when we thought things could not get any worse than what it had, Sarah noticed that the son of Hagar, Ishmael, was playing with her son Isaac, but she started noticing how Hagar was kind of making a mockery, saying some slick stuff. You know how vindictive and manipulative women could be. She swear because she finally got a boy from him that me and her on the same level, but see, I had Ishmael first, so it really don't even matter. So of course, this pissed Sarah off. So of course Sarah goes to Abraham and said, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac. In other words, get rid of this hoe. Okay, she got to go. Her and her illegitimate child. How dare she make a mockery out of me and her son make a mockery out of my son that the Lord blessed me with, that authentically came between me and my husband. Oh no, you got to go, right? So the matter was very distressing to Abraham. Abraham felt bad. He felt terrible. Once again, Sarah was still not happy. And you got to realize Abraham had made a bond with Ishmael. But Sarah wasn't trying to hear it, okay? So, this put Abraham between a hard rock and a hard place, right? Do not be distressed, because Abraham went to God and he just didn't know what to do. So basically God said to him, do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. This the part that I want y'all to understand. This the main part. Do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named for you. Now, he basically said, you have to do what Sarah tells you to do. Other words, God didn't instruct Abraham and said, being that you the man and you run things, you get to decide how this gonna go. See, God understood the assignment. He understood that even though Sarah was wrong for even encouraging her husband to be with the slave woman, but because God's of mercies and grace, he knew that Sarah was like many of us, impatient. God ain't moving quick enough, so I got to make this thing happen. He knew that Sarah was impatient So even with that, his grace was still sufficient, because at the end of the day, it was God who told Abraham, you gonna have to do what Sarah says. If Sarah don't want it there, if Sarah don't want Ishmael there, he got to go. They got to go. Nowhere did God say, okay, well, you can get rid of Sarah, but Ishmael, because Ishmael is innocent. He's a child. You can't get rid of Ishmael. Ishmael has to stay. But Hagar can go, or your wife Sarah can go. No. God knew the troubles that was going to come along with Hagar and Ishmael. So like the good word says, get rid of quarrel, intentions will cease. Throughout the mockery, intentions will cease. And that's what happened. They had to get rid of the problem in order for God to give them peace with the situation, and in order for their marriage to grow, their marriage to elevate. That's why God had no problem with telling Abraham, do whatever Sarah tells you to do. If Sarah say, I don't want your illegitimate child and your side piece harlot here, I want them to go. Abraham had to honor that, because that's what God said. God still had mercy and said, as for your son and the slave woman, meaning the side chick, the harlot, who you had your little helmet from, I will make a nation of him. But he is your offspring. In other words, I'm still going to multiply. I'm still going to extend your family further down the line, because he's your offspring. But either way it go, you got to honor what Sarah said. So Abraham rose early that morning and took bread in a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder along with her child, and sent her away. Reading that one more time, Abraham got up early that morning. He knew at this point the ball was not in his court. He knew they had to honor and obey what the God said. And God said, you have to honor and obey your wife Sarah. And because Sarah did not want Hagar and did not want Ishmael there, guess what? Abraham was now held accountable, not just from God, but also from his wife, that you don't get to run nothing. Being that you was not a leader and you didn't run this correctly in the first place by telling your wife, who you knew was you not feeling at her best, feeling down about not being able to have your child. If anything, you should have conceived her, you should have comforted her about her not being able to conceive and say, it's okay, baby. God has his own timing. We got to trust God. You being a leader, you allowed Sarah's vulnerability to talk you and persuade you into having sex with the slave woman Hagar, who in turn made a mockery out of the blessing that God had designed between you and your wife, which was Isaac. So of course Hagar had to leave, and that's when she wandered about and ended up in the wilderness of Beersheba. So of course she wept, she was upset, and God heard the voice of her and her son Hagar, and God asks Hagar after hearing her weeping, what is troubling you? What is wrong with you? God said, do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Come, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make a great nation of him. Then God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. So she knew she had to move on. She no longer had a space or a place in Abraham's life. And even then, God still told her, I'm still going to bless your son of many nations. But he also said, there's going to be a lot of conflict among the Ishmaelites, because you got to realize the way Ishmael was conceived. Ishmael was conceived in trouble. He was conceived in confusion. He was conceived out of the will of God. So therefore, God told him, hey, I'm gonna still bless you, but there's gonna be many nations of conflict through the extension of Ishmael's descendants. So meaning any other children or any other families that was being extended under the will of Ishmael, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, whatever, there was going to be many years of conflict later on down the line. So God said, oh, I can still bless a mess, but baby, you still gonna have to answer, you know. You have to reap what you sow. So Ishmael is going to lead a nation of a lot of conflict and chaos, righteously so. A lot of times I had a subscriber ask me, I saw it somewhere but I can't find it, won't God forgive? Can't God forgive? And I told I responded back, I said absolutely, God can forgive, but this is the thing, you still got to pay the piper. Why people think forgiveness means you're exempt from having an answer to your bad choices. Oh, I done prayed, God forgave me, so I can just pull up my pants and act like ain't nothing ever happened. I can act like I ain't had sex outside my marriage. I can act like I ain't been in bed with nobody's husband. No, you still got to pay the piper. You still gonna suffer. There is still actions behind the consequences that you made, and you're gonna have to live with them. So yes, God does forgive, but he's also going to give you the consequences for the actions that you made. So I want to read one or two of these comments about other subscribers as well who have been in similar situations in which outside children were conceived and not truly accepted. Why? Because the sins of an unfaithful father fall upon his son or daughter, and unfortunately they come into a cursed situation, so people begin to treat them as such, meaning a curse. So this is from Bougie Girl. Bougie Girl is one of my subscribers, been following me for a very long time. What's up, Bougie? And everybody else. She says, preach, Mocha. I love how much of a realist you really are. My father had an outside baby. We are 4 months apart, so my mom and my dad's side chick were both pregnant at the same time. Child. When my mom found out she threatened my dad that she will pack up and leave him, my dad immediately stopped seeing his side chick and never really claimed his child either. He pretty much wanted no part of the child's life if it was going to jeopardize his marriage with my mom. I didn't know that I had another sibling out there until I was 16. My father explained what happened, but he also said he had not seen his child since was a toddler and when he ran into her and her mom. I didn't actually meet her until I was 33 years old, and it was a brief encounter. We never developed a relationship because, for one, on how she got here, and two, my dad's ex-side chick was going through her karma by dealing with her daughter's chaotic lifestyle. My dad's kid is heavy on drugs and does prostitution. She disappears for months and turns up at her mother's house when she's done with the streets for a while, only to do it again. She has 6 kids by 4 different men, and she doesn't have custody of none of them. Her mom raised 3, and the rest are in foster care. What you said is definitely true. Your karma can skip you and go to your kids, and that's exactly what happened. To this day, I have not seen or spoken to her since my dad passed back in 2008. To be honest, I don't know if she's dead or alive because of the lifestyle she lived. Bougie, thank you, Boo, for sharing your story. I commend you because I'm glad that you are co-signing and confirming to what I said about how karma skips you and passes down to your children. Okay, got to pay the piper. Are children innocent? Yes. Do children deserve to be counted out or excluded? No. But this is what these married men sign up for, and this is what the side chicks sign up for when they choose to have a child from a married man. Now, Bougie's father understood the assignment. Now, I know a lot of you harlots, your concubines are going to be upset. But as I stated and implied, even God told Abraham that whatever Sarah says or wants, that is what you have to honor, because you are the one who violated this marriage. Yes, even though she told you you could sleep with a slave woman, you as the man and as the leader, you should have took leadership of that situation and said, no, I know you hurt, I know you really want a child, but we're not going to do that. Okay, as a man of God, I have to take leadership in this and suggest that we wait on God and not take it to the next level. But for those who don't wait on God and you choose to make decisions that come with a very devastating, detrimental, severe impact, it's too late to change or go back and do any do-overs. Some things are just not a do-over. They are not. Especially once a child is involved. So, what the man is supposed to do is honor the feelings of the wife who has been violated. Martell did not do that. And that is why Martell is catching so much hell. So, I know the situations are different, okay? We know that Mel did not give Martell permission to sleep with Arion air mattress. However, where the similarity in the whole overall point where they both coincide is that Martell did not honor his wife. Yes, we know the baby was conceived. Yes, we know that him and Arion and Air Mattress had this ongoing affair. However, once he got exposed, once a child was conceived, he no longer had the right to decide from that point on out what he wanted and how he wanted it. And Martell broke every code, every violation, when for one, he had an affair, for two, he had a child, and for three, after the child was conceived, he did not humble himself to Mel. And y'all wonder why he's going through all the things that he's going through. Now, because Abraham humbled himself, God still assured him that he was going to bless Ishmael, assured him he was going to give him a son of his own, and Abraham and Sarah was still able to be blessed abundantly even after a very detrimental situation. God still gave them their own son. They still was blessed with more children down the line, more grandchildren down the line. When you humble and honor the word of God, God can take an ugly mess and still give you a blessing in the midst of it. See, when Bougie shared her story, her father knew he had to stop dealing with the side chick, and he never really could claim the child. Now, I know a lot of side chicks are going to get angry. The Arion air mattress are going to get angry. One thing about side chicks, they still feel entitled. They still feel as if they have the right to decide how their child that they have from a married man should be treated, how their child should not be excluded. But see, when you choose to have a child from a married man, you limit and you restrict yourself upon where your child is placed. Versus if you have a child from your own husband, you don't have to worry about battling it out with the other woman, wondering why your child can't be around their siblings, wondering why your child can't see his father. When you have your own marriage, your own husband, you could be blessed abundantly and enjoy the blessings and the privilege of having a child the right way without having to battle it with the married man and his wife. You have some men who understand the assignment. They mess up, get themselves caught up out of not respecting their vows, out of not respecting their marriage, and in many cases it has costed them, like Martell, losing their marriage. Melody left and never looked back, And she kept it moving. Now, for the women who have chosen to stay, who have chosen to, still for better or for worse, these women deserve to call the shots. Especially when they did not violate. So, even though Sarah gave Abraham permission to sleep with the slave woman, don't you not realize God still held Abraham accountable? As much as we would like to say, well, she was wrong for telling him that. She was wrong for persuading him or talking him into doing that. I agree. But guess what? God still held Abraham accountable because he was the one who actually participated and had sex with Hagar. So guess what? Even if somebody tells you to do something, the fact that you don't agree to do it, you're going to be held accountable. And trust, Sarah was held accountable that for even talking him into that foolishness. It backfired on her too when Hagar started smelling herself, started mocking her son, and all of that in embarrassment she had to deal with. That was her payback. Abraham's payback for sleeping with the slave woman Hagar was he had got attached to Ishmael, and because Sarah wanted her gone based on God telling him to obey Sarah, that was his payback of having to give up his son from Hagar. That meant something to him. So, men who are still blessed and given the privilege to still have their marriages after such a major violation, if they have any kind of connection with God, they will understand the assignment and know that whatever the wife says, whether they agree with it, don't agree with it, they don't get to buck on that. They don't have rank. Martell broke all the rules. He cared nothing about how Melody felt. He cared nothing about how his children felt. He brought this innocent individual in his marriage, like a how can I say this? Picking up like a stray pet. You pick up the stray pet off the street and bring him home and expect, your pets who you've been raising, who've been up under your roof, you expect them to just accept and adjust to this stray pet that they don't have no type of relationship with. They have no type of bond with it. That's basically what happened. Martell brought his sins into his marriage. He brought his troubles into his marriage and introduced his troubles to his children. And that was not fair to them. And it was not fair to Melody because they did not create that. Who are you to create trouble and you bring the troubles that you create into a place in which there was stability, in which there was a spiritual bond, a stable foundation? How you bring your troubles, how do you allow your troubles to cross over? In other words, how do you allow your burdens to cross over into your blessings? That's exactly what Martell did. Now, I know this is all said and done. Mel will never take him back. Their chances of their marriage reconciling and ever being rebuilt would never happen. That's understandable. And you can't help but to respect that because of everything Martell has done. He can never be trusted. Even if he came back humble down on his knees, if he became saved tomorrow, he is still not a man that you can trust. He's not a man of his word. But had he had the opportunity, if it would have been granted, what he didn't realize was it was going to cost him. It was going to cost him not being able to have a relationship with Little Helmet and Arion Air Mattress. Because he would have had to honor and obey how Mel felt. And if Mel would have said, if I deal with this, if I decide to stay in this is how it's going to go. This is how I'm going to do it. This child cannot be welcome into my home. I don't want my children bonding with him. I don't want my children to. Guess what? He was going to have to accept that. You know why? Because you reap what you sow. You don't go out there and do dirt and you think you're going to get rewarded for it. You don't get out there and do dirt and you think you're supposed to make the rules for the dirt and for the troubles and the chaos you created. You don't make no rules. Why you think so many inmates get incarcerated, end up in prison and in jail? They get frustrated with the officers who have to supervise them. They get frustrated with the judges who sentence them. They get frustrated with everybody else who's making the rules for them, not understanding that you put yourself in a position where you've shown you cannot be trusted by society. Therefore, we can't trust your judgment. So what we have to do is we have to lock you up, incarcerate you, take away your freedom, take away your privileges, because you have already shown that you're not responsible, that you cannot be trusted. So therefore, we're going to have to lock you up and incarcerate you and make you serve time for your actions. Martell does not want to serve time. He wants to do the crime, but he don't want to serve the time. He still feels like even in his wrongdoing, he's privileged to call the shots. And that's why it has costed him. He lost everything. So for those who want to do the crime, don't worry. You're going to do the time. Whether you feel like you have to do it or you don't, you're going to do the time. And that's why the prison facilities are overcrowded now. From people who think they're entitled to do the crime but don't think they have to do the time. That is the same concept with Martell. Martell did the crime, but he don't want to do the time. He still wants to tell the judge, DA, and all of that, well, I know I did wrong, but I should have the right to decide if my children, can be on social media. But at the same time, I could contradict myself and I could put Little Helmet. I could post him pretending to be Spider-Man and all of that or whatever. I can violate as much as I want, but I don't want her violating. And see, this is the problem. Why do you think God, why do you think God made it to where Sarah, now if you think about it, God put Adam here first, right? He put man here first. So why would, in this situation, why would he not allow Abraham to be the primary decision maker when men are called to be leaders? Because he already displayed to God that he does not make good judgment as a leader. You don't want nobody being your supervisor or your boss if you see they don't even know what the hell they doing. They can't even do what they're supposed to do. You don't want them to be your boss. You don't want them to be your leader. That is the same thing. Once Abraham violated that marriage and had sex with Hagar, God already knew he could not trust Abraham's judgment with the outcome of the situation. So he left it on Sarah. Whatever Sarah say, that's how it's going to go. When a man steps outside his marriage and violates his wife, he no longer gets to make any more decisions as to how it's going to go. You violated. That's like a man who sexually assaults a woman and she's now the victim. He gets to tell her, well, you don't get to decide how I should be punished. You don't get to decide that I go to prison. I do time for how I violated you. The audacity. And Martell is one of those dudes. He has that type of attitude. I can disrespect you, drag you, hurt you, shame you, torment you, and you better not dare require me to have to pay for my actions, to have to pay for how I violated you. It's the audacity for me. It's the audacity. To this day, Martell still has yet to humble himself, and he wonders why his blessings are consistently being blocked and why Melody's blessings continue to elevate, because God has grace on those even more so who have not created any violations towards their marital union. As I mentioned before, marriage is an anointing, and anytime you tamper or you cause any collateral damage to God's anointing, realize that God is going to remove his covenant. He'll still have grace, but you won't be up under that same covenant, which is much stronger than grace. This is why Martell is slowly but surely losing one thing after another. And when it's all said and done, and this love and marriage Huntsville ends, and it's definitely going to end, because the show has become built off of a snakish foundation. It's a lot of snake movement going on, and because of that, the show is not going to continue to progress or succeed, because it's a lot of crab in the barrel that's going on. You have a lot of these castmates coming from male. You have these castmates coming from male's family. It's a lot of backstabbing between the castmates. Outsiders are getting involved. People who are not even on the show anymore are still adding more fuel to the fire, such as Wanda, Tisha's mother. So because of that, the show is on borrowed time at this point. And if that's the case, which we know it is, Martell has very, very limited borrowed time, because he has yet to repent. He has yet to sincerely apologize. And I don't mean a type of apology where you go live and you looking for empathy, sympathy, and clout. But until he repents and gives Mel that real, authentic apology, that apology being followed by genuine actions, meaning not allowing to not encouraging Ariane Air Mattress to continue to keep going live, saying disrespectful things, not flaunting his son in front of Mel and Mel's children, until he gets to that humble place in his life. He has not read the room. He hasn't read the room and understood that until he humbles himself, God is not going to take the raft off of him. And I need Martell to understand this, until you make your peace with God, and until you sincerely, authentically apologize to Mel, followed by actions, not apologizing and then a week or a month or a year later, you pulling some, crab in the barrel shenanigans, until he gets to that point, he's going to continuously keep losing. And I'm sure, like all of you know, like I've been noticing, Ariane has kind of been MIA. And we know that whenever she's MIA, it's because things are not really going too well. Now, we also know that sometimes, because Ariane Air Mattress and Martell is very attention seeking, they'll die down for a while when you think, they've somewhat come to some type of realization, only to a week from now pop up like a zit, like a bad rash, pulling another look at me stunt, but this is the other piece of the puzzle. As I mentioned before, their son is going to have it very difficult. He's not going to get that real, true, authentic acceptance. And no matter how much, Martell tries to merge him with his children for male, they're never going to be spiritually, they're never going to be joined to one another, because you have to realize Martell had his son from a harlot. So therefore, the harlot's son is not really ever going to be able to really have a bond with Melody's children. No matter how much he tries to force it, no matter how much he tries to manipulate it, it's not going to happen. Little Helmet will never really get that real authentic acceptance. And as a man that God holds you to be, a man that God holds you accountable to be as a leader, God is not pleased with the fact that Martell is, again, like I mentioned earlier, he's still trying to merge and integrate. He's trying to integrate his poor decisions, his bad decisions. He's trying to integrate that with a blessed foundation that was already established. It's no different than, you can't have a clean house, and you allow, you allow a sewer rat to come into that clean house. Not saying that the child is a sewer rat, but just follow me. Just using this as an analogy. You can't bring something that's infested and tainted, into a clean foundation, and yet you think, it's not somehow, some way going to pollute the blessings that was already established. And that is the problem. I don't think he's understanding that the way he went about creating this child is never going to correctly be joined through his siblings, because we know that Little Helmet is only male's siblings due to the fact that they have the same father. Other than that, there's no authentic connection. There's no spiritual connection. So this little boy is going to find out as he gets older. The older he gets, he's not going to be able to really connect, with his siblings, because of how he got here. And he's going to have a lot of self-esteem issues. And the older he gets, when he does come to the realization of who his parents are, how his parents got here, this young man is going to be lost in the sauce. Now I also want to share this other comment, and y'all was definitely killing it in the comments. Y'all brought up some real insightful perspectives. Nats Loves Fashion 27 says, Ariane once said in the live she did when she was pissed at Martell that he always saying their son is different from his other kids. Of course, continuing, and that he's treated differently. She said that. I watched that live with my own eyes, so you're right about Martell knowing his son with her never will be seen as an equal. He's already verbalized to Ariane that he is different from he and Melody's kids. Martell also knows his kids with Melody will have a very lavish lifestyle, because she's setting them up financially. She's already said she wants them to take over her $1 million skincare line and run it. That's right. And this is also part of the reason why Martell was trying so hard to gin I guess, to get a percentage of the proceeds from the baby sugar mama product line. He wants to make sure he and Arion's son is set financially too. But you can't set your illegitimate son up off the back of the ex-wife you cheated on him to have. Cheated on to have him. Absolutely, yes. I love when my sisters are spiritually woke and not spiritually broke. And you said a mouthful, honey, because that is the truth. It's the audacity when you taint God's anointing and you want the very thing that you tainted your legacy to benefit. And this is the reason, and even God knows that this is totally out of alignment. Why do you think God instructed Abraham to do what the wife says, and Abraham had to follow the assignment of getting rid of Hagar and losing my train of thought, Hagar and Ishmael. See, think about it. Let me tell you how strategic God is. Let's break this down to a smaller science, right? As I mentioned before, God perceives men as leaders. At least he has called them to be leaders, right? So, most likely, Abraham would have went against the grain because he bonded with Ishmael, even though Hagar disrespected the spiritual bond, which was the bond between Sarah and Abraham, like Arion broke the bond between Martel and Melody. God knew, had he not instructed Abraham to follow the orders of Sarah, Abraham would have allowed Hagar, with her arrogance, with her nastiness, and her lack of remorse, to continue to make a mockery with their son that they had together, Isaac. He knew that, right? So, if God would have told Abraham, okay, being that you're a man and I called you to lead, whatever you decide, that is what Sarah would have to accept. 9 times out of 10, I know, like all of you other ladies in here would agree, that Abraham would have been down with Hagar and his illegitimate son Ishmael still being there. Okay? We know that, alright? That why do you think he had such a difficult time with releasing Hagar and Ishmael if he would have not felt that way? Because when Sarah said, rid that slave woman, rid her slave son, Abraham got upset about that. This is the audacity of, I created this burden that I want to still try to make a blessing, even though I'm overlooking the way I got involved in the situation in the first place is the reason why there's havoc in my household, there's chaos in my marriage. Abraham was still upset even when Sarah said to rid them. And that's when God had to assure him, yes, you got to do what Sarah says. However, I will still make him the ruler of many nations, even though it's going to be years and years of conflict for the Ishmaelites. Okay? So, with that being said, if God had allowed, he specifically gave Abraham instruction to do what Sarah said to do. He didn't say, if you don't like it, you ain't got to do it. Hit that like button, by the way, y'all. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. He didn't give him an option. Okay? He said that whatever Sarah says is what's going to stand. And let me tell you why. The reason why God assigned Sarah to make the decision, because he knew had he left it up to Abraham, Abraham would have allowed Ishmael and Hagar to stay, which still would have created more chaos, more havoc, more drama, more toxicity, had he not granted that to Sarah. And in this case, that's what happened with Martell, because he felt like he didn't have to honor God and did not have to submit to what Melody said, how Melody felt. Look what he did. He made matters worse by allowing Arion to still be in the picture, by allowing little Helmet to still come around his children. He only made the situation worse. And you listen, God is a strategic God. He knew having Ishmael around would only cause Sarah more pain, more shame, more grief. And guess what? Hagar and Abraham wouldn't have had no remorse, wouldn't have had no compassion. But see, there's a God who sits high, and God honors marriage. He's not going to let you do what you want to do, how you feel like doing it. And even though, you may feel like your wife or the person you violated don't have a right to speak their mind and say what they want and what they don't want, and you make the decision to do how you want to do, not having no remorse, not no empathy for the pain you inflicted upon others. Don't worry, because God is still going to deal with you. And because Abraham took heed and obeyed God's instructions about him doing what Sarah said do, maybe that's why Abraham did not sink as much as he could have had he went against God's instruction of allowing Sarah to choose and make the call. When you violate someone, you do not get to pick and choose the outcome. I have another a subscriber or commenter say, "You're right, my husband's side child been in and out of jail. My son, college graduate, a fraternity guy, etc." And that's the thing, these outside children have more problems than a little bit. Now, I know it's going to be some exceptions. I know there's some exceptions. It's going to be that one, oh, well, I have my son, my daughter from my married man, and we are doing good. We live in a beautiful home. His biological child is out here on drugs. We know that in some cases, there's exceptions. But for the most part, in most cases, we're talking about the majority, not the minority. Most outside children become prey to their father's sin. It is what it is. I know all the children are innocent. We shouldn't be talking about them. We shouldn't be saying anything about them. But even God knew that Ishmael still having a place in Sarah's and Abraham's marriage was only going to cause more destruction. So that's why he didn't leave it up to Abraham to decide. He left it up to Sarah to decide. Because most of the time, the person who commits the violation, very rarely do they want to get rid of the problem that they created. Yes. A lot of people going to get mad, but that's okay. If you are a side piece and have a child from a married man, repent. Stay away from that family. If you need financial obligation, whatever, do what you got to do, child support, whatever. But if you really honor and obey the word of God, you would leave that man completely. No child support, no nothing. You should not look to inherit off of sin. I know a lot of y'all, oh heck no. You telling me not to ask for no child support? You telling me I got to take care of this baby all by myself? Even though this married man is just as responsible as I am? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Yes. Because this is between you and God right now. Just like it's between him and the Lord. He's still going to have to answer to God, whether he there for your child or not. But when we have violated the word of God, we got to stand on business. We don't get to tell God, oh yeah, I know I robbed the bank, but I still want to spend the money, God. I want to pray over the money that I robbed the bank with and still get me a new house. When you really want to repent, you got to strip yourself of everything. You have some women who have spiritually, in this situation, who spiritually took the high road, went on about their business, and guess what? God blessed them triple. He still gave them a husband. Down the line, he still gave them more children. God don't count out. As much as I don't like air mattress, I can't say how God will bless her and what he will do and what he won't do. I'm not a fan no more than any of y'all are. But how many times people had it out for you and want to count you out, and God still blessed you? God blesses our enemies too. That comes with it, because we're not God. God don't have a personal vendetta with our enemies. We may do, but that does not mean he has to honor. But he will deal with those accordingly who take advantage of God's people and don't do right by God's people. But we're an hour over, so I don't want to overly fill you with this sermon. But for the most part, hit that like button if you can at this very second. Please hit that like button, because I know sometimes we get so caught up in the sermon we don't care about hitting that like. But that like is what's getting me those views, and that's what's pushing it through the algorithms. So thank you for hitting the like button. So the overall moral of the story is this: until a man can humble himself after disgracing his wife, disgracing his family, he's going to continue to struggle. The scripture also says, and Martin has to be mindful about this when it comes to his children, a man who provokes his children to anger will become the servant of a wiser man. So he has to be very mindful, not only disrespecting his wife, but disrespecting his children he had from his wife. He's going to hold him accountable for that. He's already holding them accountable. That is why Martell is not able to profit off of any of his children's blessings. Because not only did you lose blessings from your wife, but you lost blessings from your children. And even when those children get older, and Martell gets up in his age and needs medicine, has to walk with a cane and all of that, his children are going to remember everything he ever took his mom through. You got to be very careful. True story. And I'm gonna shut it down. There was this woman I knew who was married to this man who violated their marriage by having an affair on her with another woman. And to add insult to injury, he actually had sex with this woman inside their marital home. True story. This happened to a family member of mine. I won't say who it is out of respect, right? So she came home one day and caught him in the actual act in the bed of their home with this woman. And instead of him, being in that situation, exposed, being caught, which he was wrong for even bringing the woman there in the first place, instead of him protecting his wife, make sure I'm saying the story right. Instead of him protecting his wife, what he did was he protected the mistress. When his wife was getting ready to attack the woman out of anger, out of hostility, of course you catch a woman in your household it puts you in a whole nother zone. And granted, although she did curse him out and she went off on him, she was getting ready to physically attack the woman. How about he literally pinned her against the wall so the woman could get dressed, and meanwhile hold her against the wall while she's in pain, watching this woman take her time dressing in front of her, getting out her bed butt naked, slowly putting on her clothes while he's holding her back, restraining her, protecting the side chick from being physically assaulted by his wife. And this was just one incident of him doing some really below the belt, painful, things within the marriage. But that was one of the ones that she recalled the most. Years and years and years down the line, after years of them going their separate ways, she been remarried, he remarried, kids are growing and everything. He ends up losing his wife through divorce, his second or third wife, whatever, through the divorce. He ran into his first wife years later and sincerely asked for her apology, because after years and years going by and all the hell he went through after how he violated his first marriage, I guess he felt life had really, beat him down, and the only way he could get some type of relief was to sincerely apologize, thinking that he could right his wrongs by apologizing. And sure enough, because years had passed and she had already been remarried and her life had going on, she forgave him. He asked her, he said, I know I did a lot of stuff to you when I was younger. I embarrassed you, I violated our marriage, I had all kind of women at the house, blah 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 blah. And she forgave him. She said, yes, you did a lot to me. You hurt me, you shamed me, you embarrassed me, but I'm a better woman now because of it, and God blessed me with a better husband. So I no longer have any hostility in my heart towards you. And, they ended this conversation civilly, in a civil manner. Further years went down the line. And what ended up happening was his health started deteriorating. His health started deteriorating to the fact that he had basically fell into infant stage, in which he was no longer able to hold himself up, meaning that his bones was deteriorating, so he had to resort back to using a walker. He had to resort back to using things to help him get around as if he was a child. Like you see a child in a walker, or something to help them coordinate and be able to move their muscles. That's what ended up happening. And it got so bad that not only did his bones begin to weaken, where he was no longer able to posture himself correctly, his mind started going. And when his mind started leaving him, he was no longer capable of having his own apartment where he could pay bills and function like the average adult. So he had to stay back with his mother. And his mother and his sister, they basically had to take care of him. Help him go to the bathroom, change his depends. And this is a man that wasn't even quite in his 60s. I mean, well, in his early 60s. But his health had declined rapidly to the point of he was not able to do anything for himself. He became like a vegetable in a sense. And ending on that note with this story, when I went to visit this particular person with my stepfather, much to my surprise, did I know that I would be there, I would be present when this man decided to take his last breath. The day he violated a person in my family who loved him dearly. The fact that I had to call that person in which he violated and tell her, I'm not sure if you know, but your ex-husband, blah, 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 he passed right in front of us. And it was just so eerie because it had to happen when I was there, and I was so able to let the person know who he had violated, what happened and how it happened. So, with that being said, everybody, you don't have to retaliate. You don't have to do anything to get back at these men. You don't have to do anything to get back at these women. You don't have to do anything to get back at a person who has wronged you or violated you. God already seen it. He knows about it, and because he ain't moving the way you want him to move, and he ain't decapitating them and doing things so harshly in front of you to convince you that God is not still standing on business, trust and believe, he's standing on business. He has his own timing for everything. So, I'm going to shut it down. Hit that like button for anybody who's interested in buying cable. 9,000 channels. $40 a month for up to 2 lines, okay? It used to be $25, but I had to bring it up because of the type of software and everything we're using. So before it goes up any time further, this is the time to jump on it. All of you who are already grandfathered in and paying your $30 a month, $27 a month, that's not pertaining to you. Your rate will stay the same, okay? So anybody else who's already getting cable from me, your rate will still stay $27. This does not apply. So don't get upset like I'm just gonna up your rate on you, because I'm not. If you already grandfathered in and getting cable, you good. But for anybody else who wants to sign up today, yes, it will be $40. And also, I'm no longer giving people apps anymore, because I've given people apps, and the problem is they're putting them on old Fire Sticks that don't work, and when the Fire Sticks don't work, they want to blame the app, okay? They want to say it's something I'm doing wrong. So to eliminate all of that, anybody who wants cable, you got to buy a Fire Stick from me, period, point blank. I'm not doing that, giving you the app so you can install it yourself, because it's too many people that I've done that for, and all of a sudden when a stick starts acting up, they think it got something to do with my app. No, I'm gonna give you a fresh, brand new Fire Stick, so we ain't got to worry about that. All right, so if you want to buy a Fire Stick, it's $65. It will come fully loaded. That's not including shipping. Shipping varies from 8 to 10. If you get 3 Fire Sticks or more, I will knock $5 off of every Fire Stick. If you want 2 Fire Sticks, it will be $120. So nevertheless, y'all, I tell you what, since I'm in a spirit of giving, we will do the Fire Stick just up until, I'll hold a special up until Sunday, okay? Instead of $65, I'll give you a Fire Stick for $55. You get $10 down, okay? So if you get a Fire Stick before Sunday coming up, it'll be for $55. You wait till after, then it's back to $65. Alright? So, only till Sunday. Those of you that are members, you will get a Fire Stick even cheaper for $50 to all of my members. $50 for your Fire Stick. That does not include shipping. Alright? So, I'm going to be generous. The Fire Stick, if you order it, you email me and say, hey Mocha, I'm interested in getting your cable. And if you Cash App, send amount, we will send it to you the very next day. You should get it within up to 5 days. Most of the time it's sooner, but I don't like to tell people that. I say up to 5 days, alright? So email me if you want the cable, and I will make preparation to get your Fire Stick out. And it'll come to you fully loaded, ready to go. You won't have to do nothing but plug it in. But yes, that's basically how it goes, y'all. Anybody need any t-shirts for family events, tumblers coming up, let me know. Members take full advantage. If you already a member, you get discounts on everything. t-shirts, tumblers, cable. Hit me up, I got you. Anyway, y'all be blessed. Take care. And until next time, y'all have a wonderful day.